So, our disciples who have been with Jesus the longest seem to have missed a cue here and there. As they were on that road with Jesus, they seem to be a bit too preoccupied with who is the greatest and who has the most power. But we can't be too hard on them. Human beings are oddly attracted to the illusion of power. We seem obsessed with those who have the ability to influence or control other people's lives. It could be political power, like Barack Obama or Mitt Romney, who have thousands and thousands of supporters standing in lines and in crowds just to be close to them as they talk about their plans that will shape the world. It could be star power, like Angelina Jolie or Brad Pitt, who are stalked by paparazzi endlessly for that first shot of their wedding, because they know that the magazines will buy that picture, and we, in turn, will buy those magazines. It could be financial power, like Ben Bernanke or Warren Buffett, whose opinions and predictions send the stock market on roller coasters. The church is not immune either, for there is spiritual power, like Rick Warren or Rob Bell, who pack their churches full of people based on the popularity of their sermons and their theological ideas. It really doesn't matter the kind of power a person has. Humans have proved that we just want to be close to it. We want to shine in its aura. For example, this past April, my wife Amy and I spent 2 weeks in Italy. We were in Florence and Venice and a little town on the coast, and we ended our time in Rome, walking among one more ruin. When we couldn't look at ruins anymore, we just began to spend time in the piazzas. And one day we found ourselves in the middle of the Piazza del Campidoglio when we noticed flying overhead, very low, was a helicopter. Now, a sane person might have left because they thought something was going on, but no, we sat down, we crouched down low, sat on a bench, and waited. We wanted to see what was going to happen. And then, surrounding a very distinguished car, came a fleet of police cars, carrying someone, protecting, shielding someone obviously very important. It was Italy. We had no idea who was in the car. They spoke Italian. We had no idea what they would have said, even if they got out and started speaking to the crowd. It didn't matter. We wanted to be there. We wanted to be close to whatever was going on. So there we were. Who's in that car? Click, click. I have no idea. Click, click. What do you think's going on? I don't know. Click, 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 click. So buried in the thousands of pictures we have from our amazing trip are a few random shots of a random person getting out of a random car that just happened to be surrounded by police cars. We did find out later that it was the Italian prime minister, but it didn't really matter. No matter what, we were going to stay in that piazza to see what was going to unfold. We wanted to be close by to whatever was going to happen because we just knew it was going to be important. And then there was the time that I provided recreation leadership for our denomination's Presbyterian Youth Triennium. It is the youth gathering for our denomination that brings 6,000 young people from across the country to gather at Purdue University every 3 years. I was on stage for 30 minutes a day leading recreation, so I was just a small part of the amazing thing that was going on at that conference. But my face and my voice were recognizable. So as the last day came and we packed up our stuff and went to the airport, I found that everywhere I went with my friend who was with me, there were young people following us around. To the food court, they were there. To our seat at the gate, they were there. To the men's room, they were there. These amazing young people just wanted to be close to someone they recognized, to someone that represented some sense of power or influence. They wanted to have their picture taken. with us, to talk to us. Trust me, it takes very little perceived power to interest people. So it should not be surprising how James and John react to Jesus in today's text. Someone who they thought was going to change the world. Someone that they had actually witnessed heal people of their illnesses. Someone that they had witnessed say and teach amazing things. Someone that they knew had very real power. As these two brothers approach Jesus, it is important to note that they are once again on a journey, drawing ever closer to Jerusalem. They have just listened for the third time to Jesus telling them how he is going to suffer and die. I can imagine these close friends of Jesus are beginning to sense that these things he keeps talking about are going to come to pass very soon. With every footfall, they draw closer to the holy city, the place where he has told them these things will happen. And they are worried. They are wondering what this will mean for their lives. And as they are walking, they see an opportunity present itself. Jesus has set the pace. He's pulling out in front of the crowd. The other disciples are hanging back, talking amongst themselves again in hushed voices. But not James and John. They speed up to keep pace. They flank Jesus on either side, and they begin to give each other that look like, you say it, no, you say it, no, you say it. And finally, one of them looks at Jesus and says to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." Who says that? I mean, really, who really says that? And Jesus, being the smart man that he is, responds, "Yeah, right. What exactly is it that you're asking?" "Oh, nothing really. We just want you to save for us the spaces right beside you in your glory. That's all, no biggie, just a small thing." As I have read the text again and again, I feel Jesus just stop on that road. I feel him come up short in his tracks and look at his disciples. These two who have been with him the longest, they just never stop surprising him. They still don't quite understand what he's about or what they're asking. As they are walking down that road, they are thinking about the time that is coming, the time when Jesus will no longer be with them, and about the time that Jesus will usher in. They are thinking that the world is going to look pretty much the same, except for one thing. The person in charge will be Jesus. He will create the tone. He will direct the people. He will create the change that so needs to happen. A little weary, Jesus begins walking again, I imagine, looking at his old friends with tired eyes, and tells them that it's just not going to work that way. They will be with him in glory, but it will not be as they are expecting, because they have been baptized with the Spirit that Jesus was baptized, and because they will drink from the cup that Jesus drinks from. But because of those things, they will be different. Because of those things, they will be different. The other disciples must have noticed this exchange on the road. They must have heard little bits of that conversation, because we see the text tells us that they begin to get angry. And you can just imagine the head of steam that's building up under them as their friends are trying to corner the good spots in glory. And as they begin to get angry, Jesus calls them all together and says, wait. I've got something for you. and always the one to use the teachable moment, Jesus pulls the rug out from underneath those disciples. And I imagine that he pulls the rug out from underneath each of us. He says to them, hey, you know how you see the table and all the important people are at the head right next to the host? And you know how you look around and see the powerful people with their servants groveling at their feet? And you see those powerful people whose secretaries bring them coffee and run all their errands, and how they have their interns do all the things that they don't really want to do? Well, let me tell you something. You are not seeing the truly important people. The important people are the ones who are cleaning the feet of the guests. The important people are the ones who are making the coffee. The important people are the ones who are welcoming the visitors and the strangers. The important people are those who stand at the doors and greet visitors. The ones who are quietly preparing for worship. The ones who are watering the plants and tending to the gardens. The important people are the ones who are cooking meals for those who are in need. The ones who are important are those who need the meals. The important ones, Jesus tells us, are not the powerful people of the magazines and newspapers. They are the ones who are serving as God's emissaries. The important people are those who are in need of God's tender care. The important people are those whom the world ignores and cannot see. On that road to Jerusalem, Jesus is creating a stark contrast to our understandings of leadership, to our understandings of power. He is literally turning everything upside down. The goal is to serve, not to be served. We can elect congressional representatives. We can elect a president. But if we expect those people to go somewhere else and do all of the work, then nothing is going to change. The goal is to serve, not to be served. You all have just come through a time of interim ministry. You have called and elected a wonderful, brand new pastor, and let me tell you, you did a great job. Bill comes to you with many years of experience. He comes to you with energy and intelligence. I have benefited from it. He comes to you with enthusiasm and love. I have been a recipient of it. He comes to you with a wicked sense of humor. Let him show it to you. And he comes to you with wise words. He comes to you with an eagerness to partner with you, to seek God's vision for this community, and to then embody it together in the world. Now is not the time for some of you to hold back in hushed conversations, wondering what's going to happen, trying to make sense of things. Now is not the time for you to take step beside him so that you might enjoy that special aura that he might bring. Now is the time to partner with him. Now is the time to come alongside him and join hands and to work out God's grace in this community, in this city, and in this world. Now is the time for you to be empowered by the Spirit, to be the agents of grace that this world so desperately needs. Just like those disciples so long ago, Christ has called you and us, not to power, but to servanthood. Christ has called us not to shun, but to include. Christ has called us not to hoard, but to give. Christ has called us not to deny him, but to proclaim him. Christ has called us not to fix our eyes on the brightest stars around us, but to cast our gaze upon those whom the world ignores, to cast our gaze upon those who need God's tender and loving arms. Christ has called us to give of our very selves so that the reign of God might unfold in our midst, so that those in this world who need it may experience God's love and God's grace in the here and now. This is my fervent prayer for you. This is my fervent prayer for Bill, that together you may show forth God's grace, God's peace, and God's justice, so that all of God's people may come along Jesus to sit on his right and on his left in glory. Amen.